What's going on, guys? I'm Zach from the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about how I think someone isn't exactly being honest about who they say they are, and this person is the top champion of Paldea, Geeta. Now, this is kind of a smaller theory video, but I think it's one that is worth at least looking into. So Geeta is, the top champion. She's kind of also a trainer shrouded in mystery. What do we know about Geeta? That she's the top champion of Paldea. That's really it, right? I mean, that's really it. And there are a couple of things that make me think that Geeta is actually not even a person, but actually a robot. Now, hear me out here. I do have some stuff to back this up. This is one of the more tinfoil hat theories, but I do think there are some interesting points to at least point to there being more behind this character than meets the eye. So first off, just right off the bat, I feel like she's very, I guess, stiff in her movements and stuff. You have a lot of trainers in this game who are very, I guess their movements are just so vivid, and like in cutscenes, Nemona has a lot of movements that just make her feel like a real person. And even people like Dendra, while you battle them, they'll kind of be like jogging in place, while they're calling out their moves and everything. But not Geeta. Geeta just kind of stands there in battle. When she returns a Pokemon, she just looks at the Pokeball and nods at it. And that's it. She'll just toss out her Pokeball, pretty casually. And when calling a move, she just kind of moves her arm. That's it. She's very stiff, doesn't have a lot of lifelike movements. I mean, I feel like she moves very robotically. Now, also, if we look at her body itself, it's, kind of just stiff and very lean. I mean, it's almost like a Slender Man body, right? It's very tall, very slim. Her legs are very long. It just doesn't seem natural to me. Now, I'm not out here trying to body shame no one, but I just feel like they designed her character to really look different from, say, Nemona or Dendra or Jacques or any of the other characters in the Paldea region. I feel like she looks so fake. And now, this is where we get into some spoiler territory, but Paldea is not exactly a stranger to robots replacing people, right? We know that when you get to the end of the game, you actually find out that the professors, Professor Sada or Professor Turo, depending on the version you're playing, are actually robots, and that the real Professor Sada or the real Professor Turo has died a while back, many years ago, in fact, and built this AI to kind of replace them in the event of their death. So this kind of creates a nice little, I guess, origin story for Geeta. Perhaps the professors were maybe experimenting around and created Geeta before ever creating themselves, right? Like a new version of themselves. And there is some things that do hint at this. First off, just the fact that these AI of them are very, very advanced, right? This Professor Sada and this Professor Turo AI is so advanced that it even has their memory. I mean, it is essentially like they just created a new body for themselves. Not only that, but it's also able to think for itself too. Even though it has Sada or Turo's memories, it also has its own thoughts and its own opinions. Like how it knows that Sada and Turo wanted to bring all the Pokemon in through the time machine, but it doesn't think that's right, and it sees that this will cause a big disaster, and it wants you to stop it from doing that, even though it's programmed to do that. And that kind of advanced technology would obviously take some practice, right? I mean, there's no way that their first robot that they built is that perfect, So I kind of wonder if they built another robot first that maybe was not supposed to represent them as kind of a test run. Say this robot could be Geeta. Now, there is also some interesting stuff. There are these books that are laid around the different research stations in Area Zero. And if you go to Research Station 4, there is a book where the professors, both versions, even though they're different professors, both versions have this, where in the book they're talking about how they just need more help, and they're like, my spouse left me, after Arvin was born. I just need help. I need more time. I need more help. And then there's a book next to it, and when you read that one, it's like, my new assistant is a bit rigid at times, but I really don't have any complaints. And this is kind of interesting because I think at first glance, you would read that and assume that they are talking about their AI that they created, right? They're talking about the new Sada or the new Toro. But I don't think so. I think they're actually talking about Geeta, and I think this can kind of be seen by reading in between the lines here. They say that this new character is a bit rigid at times, but they have no complaints. That just kind of seems like something that's going to eventually boil over, right? Lead to a disagreement. Like, no complaints right now, but they're kind of, it feels kind of passive-aggressive. Like, well, they're a bit rigid at times, but I mean, I've got no complaints, I guess. It feels like something that could eventually boil over and become a thing of, now I'm sick of this person and they've got to go. And so they kick this person, or this robot rather, Geeta, out, and that's kind of how she gets out of Paldea. They're like, hey, go live your own life. Maybe even give her, like, free will, something that is later accidentally put into the AI of themselves, which allows them to ask you to stop the time machine, right? So that's just kind of my thoughts on this. And another thing to point out is that Geeta's ace is a Glimmora, and Glimmet can be found in other parts of the Paldea region. It can be found in caves in the mining area outside of Zapapico, and I believe it can be found in other areas as well. I just know that one off the top of my head. But there are, dozens of them in Area Zero. Like, you go to Area Zero, and they are all over the place. In that cave, there's more Glimmora, I think, than there are actual Paradox Pokemon. And that just makes me think that Glimmora is perhaps from here. And again, always possible Geeta could have caught one that wasn't from there, like in Zapapico or something. But I just think it's really interesting that they gave her ace something that is so relevant to Area Zero. In fact, Nemona even points this out when you run into a Glimmora at the beginning of your descent into Area Zero. She even points out, whoa, that's the top champion's ace Pokemon. What's that doing here? They want you to make that connection that, hey, there's a bunch of these things down there that are the top champion's Pokemon. And again, I just think that's all intentional, and I think that is them teasing that Geeta might be a robot, and perhaps this could even be explored in DLC. We know there are clear teases to DLC in these games, so DLC is going to happen. We also, frankly, know that DLC will happen because it happened with Sword and Shield, and they said that will be taking the place of third versions. So instead of Pokemon Scarlet, Pokemon Violet, and Pokemon, Olive, it's going to be a third version. It's going to be a DLC instead of a third version, right? So hopefully we do get answers to this in DLC. Even if she's not a robot, I feel like there's a lot of mystery around Geeta, and I feel like something's just off there. She really stands out from other champions. Now, that's not just because she is the weakest champion we have ever battled. So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think of this theory in the comments below. I know this isn't exactly as solid as, say, my Paradox theory, which I encourage you to check out, but I do think that it does have some weight to it. Be sure to also like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you do not miss any future theory videos. Obviously, these games just came out. I've dove into them. I've, done a lot of playing of it, so I have a lot of things just rattling around the brain up here, so you don't want to miss those. So again, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Until next time, I will see all of you later.